will tell you on your way out, I do have a handout, and I would like to ask your permission to add to new business one additional item, and that is to approve the recommendation for our ESSER 3. We do have a plan in place. It does not differ from what we planned on prior to, but I do have some information for you. I did share it with the commission, the education committee from the commission this evening, and it spells out what we are spending, what we are prioritizing for spending the ESSER funds on in both 1, 2, and 3. We don't need an official approval, but we need you to receive the plan, so to speak, publicly. So if you want to look this over, I will briefly talk you through it. It's highlighted. The highlighted areas that you're getting on your sheet are instructional items. As you know, 20% of all funds, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 have to be instructional. And those are highlighted for you there. So it has to be related to direct support of students. You'll see in ESSER 1, obviously prioritize summer school academic materials. The amount there, instructional technology was huge going into COVID, coming out of COVID that first year. ESSER 2, you'll see the highlighted items there, summer school academic materials. We had SPED, compensatory education costs set aside there. We had content filters on our internet. We had Zoom, obviously, to allow us to be interactive with staff and throughout the county. The implementation of Canvas at our high schools, ISL, intervention, and Skyward updates to our student information system, all paid through ESSER. Of course, Chromebook purchases there, and math interventionists that are in the classrooms assisting teachers work with students in the area of math. ESSER 3 is our largest pot of money, and that you can see the instructional components there. Summer school continues on into this school year. This is primarily aimed at this school year through the 2023 fall. Academic materials continues. We're looking at now implementing newer technology for our teachers, including teacher laptops, docking stations, things that allows them to take their technology home and extend that classroom, or if they are out, let's say they're quarantined, they have the opportunity to still push lessons and communicate with students. Interactive boards, those are largely replacements. We're moving from one type of interactive board that's older to newer. Prometheans, those types of things that are interactive. They're like the screen there. You can go up and touch screen those and interact with them, and so can students. Reading, math, and STEM interventionists aimed at support in the classroom in those areas. And of course, the CPA expansion, which includes an ongoing offset for the cost of the fire management system that's highlighted tonight, and implementation of those 2 FTEs, one for Cherokee and one for volunteer. Some of the facility type items there, let's look at ESSER 3. We've got items such as cafeteria tables for Carter's Valley, walk-in coolers. We're looking at renovating this center here. This center needs a new roof and it needs a new air conditioning, and if you're going to do both of those using these one-time funds, considering how much this building is used, we are proposing that we update this building here and make it accessible to the community and our partnering agencies, as well as our PD for our teachers and staff. Electronic access, all buildings. You guys have seen us when you visited classrooms and buildings where we can access buildings using our ID cards. We are putting that on every single building across the system so that we know who's in the building at all times. So when we enter those buildings, using our ID, for example, we know who's on site in the case of an emergency. If they're not out at the point of where we take attendance and we're missing staff, we know they're in the building somewhere. So it's a safety issue for us, and we want to update that. Secured entrances. If you think of McFeeder's Bend, let's look at Mooresburg. Once you enter the school site there, McFeeder's is also a good example. Once you enter the school site there, there's a direct access to main hallways and to the office without another set of doors or something that somebody up to no good would have to get through. So we're looking at updating those school sites with with those necessary locks, doors, hardware. We're looking at replacing the exterior doors of both high schools. The way that those were built, they're completely rusting out. So again, large-scale expenditures that we couldn't pay for in our existing annual budgets are being targeted through these one-time federal funds. HVAC at Hawkins Elementary, as you heard in the last facility meeting, Shannon and Seth brought us up to speed on that being a liquid flow, a water flow cooling tower system, and it leaks. All those pipes run in the roof, and they're old. They were built to put in with the school system, and we're looking to update that with these funds. Charity and volunteer remaining funds for that project, again above and beyond what ESSER allowed us to put forward to that. This will wrap up that project, glad to say. And as you heard from the training representative at the facility meeting, we're looking at about another 4.5–5 weeks before we're completed there, and we're looking forward to finishing that and having no more issues of humidity and those type of things. Little smaller things, and of course, when I say smaller, we're only talking $15,000 for this project, but we're looking at replacing water fountains, or at least a majority of them, with water filling stations so that students can use their water bottles and other things, take those to class, that type of thing. And then, as I mentioned in the Education Committee with the Commission, we're looking at upgrading all of our remaining gymnasiums with air conditioning across the board. So it's a big list. It will take us several years to get through it if everything's approved, but we have to officially have the board receive this list and ask any questions they may have before proceeding with our application and any edits with the state.
With these funds, and this list gets approved by the federal government, we would have to go through the bidding process on these projects.
Correct. That's a great question. The only thing that we do not have to bid is the ongoing projects such as the HVAC at the high schools, because that was prior bid and prior dealt with. Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you for that information. That's going to answer a lot of questions for a lot of people.
And I did make that available to the commission and extra copies. One question, or one clarifying statement to Mr. Christian's question. Because these are federal dollars, we are having to pay federal wages, so we have accounted for those increased costs there. You probably saw an article in the Times News last week about 30–40% higher labor rates in some cases, depending on the scope of work that you're doing, because you're having to meet those federal wage requirements. So we learned that between 1 and 2, and going into 3, we've accounted for that. I will tell you that we've been extremely good stewards of this money, and any overages that we've estimated can be rolled over to the next year, and we've been able to account for a lot of that and pick up additional projects. So as we have those pickups, I will continue to bring those back to the board and to the Education Committee so that everybody's informed on what we're spending this money on.
I have just one question on the security entrances. I know we mentioned McPheeters Bend, but that's not one that you'll be doing.
No, it was just an example. I'm looking at, that's a good question. You look at those schools that once you get past the first set of doors, you have unfiltered access to any location on the campus, and we want to prevent that.
And we finished the one at Rogersville because we were doing that downstairs.
So we are waiting on supplies. It's been paid for. It's been requisitioned. We're waiting on the window tint and some of the door frames and door hardware, but it's ready to go. And I talked to Mr. Roach about that today, as a matter of fact.
Because I knew we were already scheduled. I didn't know if it got finished.
One more question.
Sure.
These ESSER funds, do we get these funds all in one lump sum?
No, we don't. We wish we did. Melissa's back there shaking her head. No, we don't.
We're on ESSER 3.
Yes.
ESSER 1 funds have been exhausted.
We're still utilizing. We're still utilizing funds from ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 right now. ESSER 2
is in our bank account.
You have to spend it first
A lot of
and
those
then
are
request
reimbursed.
reimbursement.
Oh, so we don't
Just
get
like
the
all
interest
of
on
them.
that.
So remember, if you remember, Melissa asked in our budget meetings to up the the amount that we keep for those purposes to front load that money, and we typically did 200,000,
We had 500,000 and we increased it another 500,000.
so we're up to $1 million there.
So we have $1 million to spend first over
That
all
answers
the
all the questions.
It's a lot of work. I mean, I'm looking at Michelle and Reba and Melissa and others that track this one. Jennifer tracks the purchases, and the amount of documentation that the federal government is imposing on us through the Department of Education is almost unreal. It's taken a lot of effort, but it is money, and these are projects that will not touch the taxpayers because it's one time, and we're able to get rid of some of these maintenance costs as we go through. So it's actually a blessing and a curse at the same time. But I appreciate you letting me slide this in at the end because our timeline is pretty tight.
Okay.